You owe your brother everything. That's what my dad told me, with zero shame. After I built my real estate company from the ground up, blood, sweat, and sleepless nights, he looked me in the eye and demanded I just hand it over. Not sell it, not share it, just give it away. But what really crushed me, it wasn't just my dad. It was when my mom stood up at a family dinner and told everyone I was a failure, a fake, a fraud. But here's what they didn't know. I'd been hiding something they never saw coming. And when I finally revealed it, the entire room went silent. Let me take you back. So I'm 28. And yeah, I'm that person who skipped parties to flip houses and learn how property tax works. Sounds boring, right? But back when I was 23, I took the biggest risk of my life. I maxed out 2 credit cards, borrowed $10,000 from a friend, and bought a rundown duplex in a part of town everyone avoided like the plague. People thought I was insane, even my own family. My dad said, "No one's gonna trust a girl like you with real estate. That's a man's game." Yep, he said that, out loud, with a straight face, but I hustled. I learned. I painted walls myself. I watched YouTube videos on plumbing at 2 a.m. I negotiated with contractors like my rent depended on it, because it did. And within 3 years, that one janky duplex turned into a portfolio, 15 properties, over $200,000 in equity, my own LLC, a property management team, and by 27, I was making 6 figures passively. You'd think my parents would be proud, right? Wrong. My brother, David, is 2 years older than me. And while I was flipping moldy basements, David was, well, let's just say he majored in vibes, dropped out of college, got into a string of failed crypto scams. Always had some next big thing he wanted someone else to fund. You probably already know where this is going. A few months ago, we had this big family BBQ. Everyone was there, cousins, uncles, even my grandma who thinks Facebook is the internet. We were all sitting around the patio when my dad clinked his beer bottle and goes, "We have something important to discuss." Suddenly, it's a whole board meeting vibe. He clears his throat and says, "Your brother has a new vision. A tech real estate startup, but he needs a foundation. So we've decided that it makes sense for you to transfer your company to David. He's got the drive, the ideas, and frankly, he needs it more than you do." I laughed, thought it was a joke, but my mom nodded, dead serious. "It's time you support your family," she said. "You wouldn't be where you are without your father's advice." Hold up. His advice? The same man who told me flipping houses was a man's game? The same guy who didn't even come to the open house I invited him to when I sold my 3rd property? And now suddenly I owe them everything? I looked around the table. Everyone was silent. Even my cousin Mark, who once begged me to invest in his air fryer for pizza invention, was avoiding eye contact. David just smirked, like he deserved it, like he expected me to just say yes. And for the first time in my life, I felt this deep, cutting kind of betrayal. Not just from them, but from myself. Because a tiny part of me almost gave in. Later that night, I sat in my car outside their house, just staring at the steering wheel, hands shaking. How did I get here? How did the girl who built everything get gaslit into thinking she owed her lazy brother a business I built from the dust? But the worst part was still coming. Because the next day, my mom posted on Facebook, publicly, a post that started with, "It's heartbreaking when your child turns their back on family," and ended with, "After all we've done, she refused to help her brother." I guess not everyone was built for success. Over 80 likes, a dozen sympathy comments. One even said, "I knew she'd burn out eventually." And no one, not one cousin, not one aunt, messaged me to ask what really happened. They just believed it. Because if your own mom says you failed, why would they question it? But what my family didn't know was that I'd been working on something behind the scenes. Something I hadn't told anyone. Because I knew this moment was coming. I just didn't know it would come like this. And when I revealed it, let's just say, no one called me a failure ever again. But first, David made one move that pushed me over the edge. And after that, all bets were off. So yeah. That Facebook post, it was like a knife. But you know what cut even deeper? What happened the next weekend? I was walking through one of my properties doing a final walkthrough before putting it on the market. Beautiful little craftsman with a fresh kitchen, right? I'm checking baseboards, admiring the staging I personally paid for, and then my phone buzzes. It's a message from Shayla, my assistant. Hey, did you authorize David to access the business bank account? Wait, what? I call her immediately. She tells me David called the office pretending to be a partner, used my full name, my LLC info, and even told her I'd approved it all but was too busy to talk. He tried to access my business account, not ask me for help, not pitch an idea, straight up impersonate me. That was it. That was the final line. I drove straight to my lawyer's office and said, "Lock everything down." Within 24 hours, we secured my business under a new trust name, changed account routing, scrubbed access, and refiled all ownership papers with a legal firewall that not even the IRS could penetrate without clearance. David was out. He never had a stake, but now he didn't even have hope. But guess what? He didn't stop. The very next week, my mom called me, her voice calm but loaded. "You really hurt your father. You're being dramatic. David just wants to be someone." I said nothing. She added, "And if you don't reconsider, we'll tell the rest of the family what really happened with your second property." I froze. That property, my second flip, had a mold issue. I'd accidentally taken advice from a bad contractor and had to spend $16,000 fixing his mistakes. I never told anyone. It was the closest I ever came to going bankrupt. They knew that story, and they twisted it like a knife. "We'll let people decide if your business is really what you say it is." Blackmail. From my own mother. But I wasn't scared, because what she didn't know was that I had every receipt, every contract, every before and after renovation doc on file. Digitally and legally time-stamped. Still, I was rattled, and the worst part? I started to believe them. I sat alone in my apartment that night. No music, just silence. Staring at my laptop, all my spreadsheets, all the metrics I used to be proud of. And I felt empty. Because what's success, really, if your own family would rather steal it than celebrate it? I kept wondering, did I really work this hard just to end up this hated? That night, I cried. Ugly cried. Like the kind of crying where your body goes limp and your thoughts spiral like a broken elevator. But then something clicked. If they were going to paint me as a villain, then maybe it was time I showed them exactly who they were dealing with. Here's where things flipped. Remember how I said I'd been working on something? Well, what I didn't tell anyone, not even Shayla, was that for the past 8 months, I'd been secretly acquiring properties outside my LLC. Why? Because I knew this family had sticky fingers. So I started Property Vault, a new holding company with zero connections to my legal name on paper. I used a blind trust, hired a separate legal team, and ran it through a third-party intermediary. 4 properties, 2 commercial units, 1 Airbnb portfolio, over $1.1 million in assets, completely under wraps. I had built an entire second empire in silence. And when I found out David had been telling people I fudged numbers and that I'd be out of business in 6 months, I made a move. I RSVP'd yes to the next family event. My cousin's engagement dinner, packed house, dress code formal. Everyone would be there, including David, my parents, and all the people who believed them. And I showed up ready. I walked into that restaurant in a tailored white suit, the kind of thing that makes people sit up straighter. David was already there. My mom, too, wearing this smug little smile like she knew a secret. And then I pulled out my iPad. I clinked my glass, just like my dad did weeks before. And I said, loud enough for the table, "Since we're all about family transparency, I'd like to share my failure." The whole room got quiet. My mom's smile grew. David leaned back like he was about to enjoy dessert and a takedown. But then, I started the slideshow. Property after property, address, market value, before and after photos, rental income, Airbnb earnings, legal documentation. And then I said, "Everything you're seeing here? These aren't even part of my original company. These were built from scratch, while you were all too busy doubting me." My aunt gasped. One cousin literally whispered, "Wait, what?" David went pale, and then I looked dead at my mom and said, "So next time you post about how I've failed, maybe ask me for my tax returns first." And just when I thought I'd delivered the mic drop, David stood up. "This is fake. You're lying. You're manipulating people again, like you always do." Oh no, David. You picked the wrong moment. Because what I had next was a bombshell that no one, especially him, was ready for. So there he was, David standing in front of the whole family, finger in my face, calling me a liar. "You faked all of this. This is just another one of your tricks." He was shaking, but not from anger. No, he was scared. Because deep down, he knew I'd come with receipts. I didn't even flinch. I tapped the iPad again, and this time, I opened the shared document. The one David never thought I kept. See, last year, when David wanted to learn the ropes, I let him shadow me during one of my lower stakes flips. I walked him through everything: budget sheets, contractor contacts, escrow timelines. I even gave him a templated contract to study. And guess what he did with that? He used it to forge a deal. I looked straight at my dad and said, "Did you know David tried to use my name to secure a $90,000 renovation loan without a license? And using a template I gave him?" Gasps. My uncle choked on his wine. Even my mom's smile finally dropped. Then I pulled up the loan rejection email, addressed to David, with my name in the subject line, and highlighted one line. "Due to the mismatched tax ID and unauthorized use of LLC branding, this request is being flagged for potential fraud." Fraud. That was the word. I turned to the table and said, "He wasn't trying to learn the business. He was trying to steal it. And he would have tanked my entire company if the bank hadn't flagged it." Silence. You could hear forks settling onto plates. No one knew what to say. And then my dad, my actual father, slammed his napkin down and said, "That's enough. This is a family matter. We don't air dirty laundry like this." But I wasn't done. I turned to him calmly and said, "You aired it first, when you stood in front of this same family and told them I owed David my company. You aired it when Mom posted lies on Facebook, so let's not pretend this didn't start with you two." For the first time, he looked ashamed. Just for a second. But I saw it. A flicker of guilt before he turned away. But then my mom leaned in and whispered across the table, "You're not the only one with secrets." And I swear, the temperature in the room dropped. Because then, out of nowhere, she pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it to my aunt. "You should read this. Everyone should know what really happened during her big real estate win." It was a copy of a code violation report from 3 years ago. One of my first flips. The kitchen had faulty wiring. The inspector flagged it, and I had to do a full electrical rework before I could sell. Cost me $5,000 and 2 weeks. She passed it around like a smoking gun, like she'd caught me red-handed. And honestly, I could have panicked. I could have tried to defend myself, explain the situation, say how I fixed it immediately and even got a 5-star review from the buyer. But I didn't. I looked at her and said, "Yeah, that was my mistake. I owned it, fixed it, paid for it out of pocket, and still sold the house for $48,000 profit. Boom. Because here's the thing. When you've built your wins on your own back, you don't fear the truth. But David, he had no such foundation. And that's when it all began to unravel. My cousin's fiancée, Rachel, of all people, stood up next. David, is it true you asked my dad to co-sign on a business loan for your company? But you said you already had the property in escrow. David's eyes widened. He stammered. I was gonna buy it. I just needed time. She cut him off. But you told him it was already yours. You said you needed the loan to cover marketing, not to purchase the house. Yikes. That was the moment people started realizing David was the one bluffing, and not just to me, to everyone. He'd been using my name, my reputation, and vague talk of partnering to scam his way into meetings, promises, and money. And when the questions started rolling in about where his money came from, where his properties were, he had nothing. He finally snapped. She's always had everything. You all act like she's some genius, but I was just trying to have something too. That was it. That's what it was always about. Not legacy, not business, not family, jealousy. He wanted the outcome without the sacrifice, the praise without the risk. And that's when I dropped the final hammer. I turned to the room and said, I started with $14 in my account. No one handed me anything. No cosigns, no loans. Just grit, Google, and 18-hour days. You want to compare journeys? Let's compare starting lines. Then I opened my last slide, a side-by-side timeline. On the left, every job I worked, from barista to temp assistant to part-time leasing agent. On the right, dates, listings, offers closed, earnings, every step of my rise. It was undeniable. Not perfect, not flashy, but real. And for the first time all night, my dad looked up. He said, quietly, almost to himself, I didn't know. I thought you were just flipping houses. I looked at him and said, no, Dad. I built a business. While you were too busy looking for a son to pass it to, your daughter became something without you. And David? He walked out, didn't say a word, didn't even finish his meal. My mom tried to call after him, but he brushed past her like she wasn't even there. The rest of the dinner? Dead quiet. Until my great-uncle raised a glass and said, well, I know who I'd invest in. Everyone laughed. Not out of disrespect, just that kind of uncomfortable, awkward relief when a room full of tension finally pops. And me? I just sat back and exhaled, because the war was over. Or so I thought. Until the next morning, when I woke up to a notification. David had posted a TikTok, and it was already going viral. When I opened TikTok and saw David's face, I just laughed. Of course he went viral. He was crying in his car, background blurred, soft music playing, the works. The caption? My sister ruined my life just to feel superior. I watched the whole thing. He painted himself as the victim, said I publicly humiliated him, that I was threatened by his success, that our family always loved him less, and now I was trying to destroy him completely. He even faked tears. I couldn't believe it. He took the truth, twisted it into a sob story, and fed it to the algorithm. And here's the thing. It worked. By the end of the day, it had 400,000 views and comments like, your sister sounds like a narcissist. Why are women so competitive with their siblings? Typical corporate monster-crushing family for clout. They didn't know me. They didn't know anything. But they picked a side. And it wasn't mine. For a second, I'll admit, I questioned myself. Did I go too far? Was I too cold? Too public? But then I got a DM from someone I didn't expect. My dad. Can we talk? Just us. So we met at this little diner we used to go to after soccer games. It felt weird, like rewinding a life that no longer fit. He sat across from me and started talking. No rehearsed lines, no judgment. Just a man who'd finally seen something clearly. I believed David because he needed more, and I thought you didn't need anything from me. That hit harder than I expected, because yeah, I'd made it, but that doesn't mean I didn't need support, love, recognition. I looked at him and said, I never needed your money, Dad. I needed your belief, and you gave it to the person who didn't earn it. He didn't argue, just nodded. And then he reached into his coat and slid over a manila envelope. Inside, a deed to a property he bought years ago, a small office space in the city. It's yours. I want to invest in your future now, if you'll let me. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The same man who once asked me to hand over my company was now handing me his trust. But as we talked more, the full truth came out. Turns out, David had been lying to him for years, claimed he helped me get my start, that he lent me money during my first flip. Even said he was co-founder of my LLC, but I pushed him out. None of that ever happened. My dad showed me texts, voice notes. David had been running a long con, manipulating their nostalgia, their guilt, their pride. And my mom? She bought into it, hard. That's why she lashed out when I refused to do the right thing. It was never about fairness. It was about keeping David's ego intact. I left that diner feeling lighter, but I knew it wasn't over. Because the internet had already made up its mind. So I posted my own video. No music, no edits, just me, sitting in my office, calm, clear. Hi, I'm the sister my brother's been talking about. I wasn't going to respond. But facts matter. I laid it out. Dates, screenshots, bank statements, legal documents. Not with bitterness, just clarity. And then I said, it's easy to edit a narrative. But here's the difference. I don't need a sad story to succeed. I built something real, and I stand on that. The response? Massive. People flipped. Comments like, wait, this changes everything. Okay, now this is how you handle drama with receipts. Sis went CEO mode and I'm here for it. I'm gonna follow just to learn from her. She's the real deal. My follower count doubled, then tripled. Investors started reaching out. Podcasts. Women in real estate asking to mentor under me. I wasn't just reclaiming my name. I was leveling up. As for David, he deleted the video. Then his account. No apology. No message. But I wasn't looking for one anymore. Because what he tried to take from me, credibility, identity, dignity, he never gave me in the first place. So he couldn't steal it. And Mom? That's the part that still stings. She never reached out, never said sorry. But one day, my aunt texted me a screenshot. A post from my mom's private Facebook group. Proud of my daughter. CEO, investor, speaker. She made her own path. That was it. No tag, no comment. Just quiet acknowledgement. I didn't comment, didn't like it. But I saved the screenshot. Because some wounds don't need revenge. They just need healing in silence. These days, that office my dad gave me, it's now a co-working hub for women in real estate. We run workshops, mentorship programs, and we've already helped 5 women close their first deals. Legacy redefined. And every time I walk through that front door, I think, this is what they tried to take from me. And then I remember, they couldn't. Because no matter who doubts you, who tries to rewrite your story, who throws dirt on your name hoping it'll bury you, truth doesn't just survive, it builds empires. Ever had a family member try to sabotage your success or take credit for it? Drop your story below. Let's talk about it. You're not alone. If this story hit you hard or inspired you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories like this that actually matter. And hey, send this to someone who's ever been underestimated. Let them know. They're not the only one. Let them doubt you. Let them talk. Just make sure. You keep building the kind of success they'll never forget. That's the real revenge.